All right, let's try the whole day drinking thing. Cheers. Welcome back, everybody, to me doing the weekly navel-gazing thing, where I talk about all the books I read last week, all the videos I made last week, all the videos I did not make last week, all the books I plan to read this week, and all the videos I plan to make this week, or something like that. Let's get started and talk about books. I did read some, not as many as the week before, but at least some. I did read Rebooting AI by Gary Marcus, which is, well, and another guy whose name I always keep forgetting because I'm really bad at this. And for whatever reason, Goodreads only lists Gary Marcus, and that's where I checked what I did read last week. So yeah, it is a second, also an AI professional, well, former professor or still professor, and so it's a good book, is what I'm saying. It's not the best book I've ever read, but it's certainly an important book when it comes to sort of like artificial intelligence things. And then, indeed, read Reflections, which is a collection of essays, autobiographical writings, and aphorisms and stuff by Walter Benjamin. Walter Benjamin being, a Jewish German philosopher, critic, all kinds of things, who sadly passed away by his own hand because he tried to avoid being captured by Nazis, which, is a bit of a problem. Like, really important thinker, wrote some amazing texts. I highly recommend anyone who's interested in like how we deal with art, books, or whatever these days to read his the artwork in the age of its mechanical reproduction. Really, really key text in a lot of ways, and this is just a collection of his some of his autobiographical writings about his youth in Berlin, and then there's a bunch of like notes on different cities he lived in or visited, among them, Moscow. There is Marseille. Then there is a second text about him eating, smoking weed in Marseille and being stoned, and that's a really funny one if you ever wanted to read like a very, very serious, very well-educated person writing in an elaborate style about how they're stoned in a foreign city they didn't really like much, and how they now plan to eat like more than like 3 meals because they're so hungry, and so forth. It's an interesting thing. And then there's, more thoughts on like art, production, that kind of stuff. Conversations he had with Bertolt Brecht, German playwright, about all kinds of things. Franz Kafka in particular. So yeah, a lot of stuff about literature and philosophy and so forth. And it was interesting. It was fun. Some bits were, more interesting than others, depending on like what I am personally interested in, which is kind of jumps around depending on what I'm doing and thinking. So. And some of those I had already read, but it was nice to read that. And then I did read The Sound of Wild Snail Eating by Elizabeth Toa Bailey, which is a short book about, a snail. And snail things and chronic illness and disability, because the author was bedbound because of an ongoing, like, undiagnosed or badly diagnosed illness. And a friend gave her or brought back from a walk a local snail, and she then, learned things about snails and then talks about, watching that snail and so forth, and how that relates to, coming to terms with a specific chronic illness that kind of keeps you away from engaging with the world, with society, and all the things that you kind of build up around your life. So in that regard, it's a really interesting book. It's a short book. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, I can recommend it. It's good. And then I did read The Trees by Percival Everett, which is fun in a very dark and twisted way. It did remind me of, things like Lovecraft Country, and a bit of some of the stuff that Thomas Pynchon does in books like Against the Day and so forth. And there's some elements that certainly also in their like absurdism feel more like something that you would find in Illuminatus by Robert Shea and Robert Wilson. So very much the kind of book I enjoy in a lot of ways. So I'm glad I finally read like a Percival Everett book. Will I read James? Possibly at some point in the future. Not right now, but I did have fun with this one. And that's all I read last week. So what about books that I plan to read this week? No idea. In fact, yeah, I have like no real idea of what to read next. I might read Fossil Capital by Andreas Malm. He of, How to Blow Up a Pipeline fame, and this sounds like something I might be interested in, the kind of history that led to the way we are, we kind of impacted climate change over the last, say, 250 whatever years, so it might be an interesting book. So I might read that. Beyond that, I'm at a bit of a loss. There is stuff coming out, next week, so that I'm looking at, but like this week, I'm not sure what to read, basically. So if you have suggestions, you can always tell me about those. But I've also been struggling with being motivated when it comes to what to pick next for a book. So I don't know what I'll read in that regard. So yeah, let me know what I should read, what I have missed this year. I mean, technically there are things that I'm vaguely interested in, so maybe I'll go for one of those. Who knows? It's just a bit of a mystery, I guess. So what about videos? Well, I did make 2, and then I published one of them, and the one I published was, of course, the Reading Perfection of Reading tag. Pat over at Book Chat with Pat tagged me for that one. I did enjoy that. That was nice, and it was really good that I got tagged with this just at this specific moment in time, because I've been very much struggling with sort of motivation when it comes to filming or coming up with good ideas what to film for all kinds of reasons, right? And that is so, and having a tag is really helpful in that regard, because I'm I could, it's just a bunch of answers. I already have a structure and idea and everything basically by virtue of that being a tag, and then I just film that. And so I did that, and that was fun, and it's up. And I did do my monthly live stream on Saturday. I think it was probably okay. It was less viewers, but it happens from time to time, and I was pretty fucking exhausted because Thursday and Friday were pretty energy heavy days. I went to a punk rock concert and had friends staying over, and that led to how can I put this? Not the wisest or healthiest of behaviors. So I did not sleep a lot, and so I was pretty knocked out already on Saturday when I did the live stream, so less energy, I think, but I hope it was still fun, and I very much appreciate everyone who came and hung out. I do really appreciate that every single time. So yeah, that's something. And then on yesterday, I did hang out with Britton over on his Sunday stream, which happened yet again, and that was also fun. I always enjoy those, so that was cool. And I did record another video. Maybe we'll talk about that in a moment, that I then struggled with whether I should publish it or not, or whether I should re-record it or drop the whole thing. And it's obviously artificial intelligence related, so we'll be talking about that in a later, because I did not continue work on the AI video for I don't know what reasons. I was just struggling with getting my ass up there and starting to film. So that's kind of the struggle, which brings me to the question what videos will I make this week? And once again I have no idea. So yeah, in theory, it's very simple. I can just continue work on the AI video. That will take a while because, yes, that stuff is complex. And it probably is a good idea to do that, because I still believe that there is a need to do that right now. People are talking about AI again for all kinds of reasons. And I think the more people are talking about it, the more I get frustrated with some people talking about it. And at the same time, the bigger the channels that are talking about it, the more I get worried that me going out and going hey, y'all maybe consider these things would lead to some, it increases the pressure, I think, for me. And that's kind of where I'm, I guess, partly worried with actually continuing. And I'm depending on the week or the day or the month or the hour, I can be very, very anxiety ridden and not do anything and not actually, get stuff done, which is probably not good for this kind of channel in a lot of ways. So that's why I don't know what to do there. Will I finally record the video for Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle? Hopefully. That will be good, I think. So I'll try to do that, because that should be relatively easy to do. Because, I've read the book. I've been sitting with my thoughts on the book for a while now, so that should work. So maybe that will be a video that I'll make. But that's roughly what it is at the moment. unless something else comes up and I'm like, I feel compelled to make another video. And that's really sort of like a lot of the struggle over the last week or so was me sort of like lacking like a clear plan of what I want to do, or having like the motivation to actually film anything. The pressure with the artificial intelligence stuff obviously played a role in that, but also generally like, hey, going like, well, I don't think making a video on like the writings of Walter Benjamin is something I'm qualified for. It's also probably something that like no one will watch unless I, do actually do like academic philosophy stuff with it, which I don't necessarily feel competent enough to do at this point. So it's not like the kind of stuff where I feel there is, space of me, making that kind of video. So my reading was not something where I could go like, hey, well, clearly I can make a video about this because I just read this book. That's obviously often kind of the danger when you read a specific, like non-fiction stuff in that regard. So that was certainly part of it. But like in general, I just like felt a bit lost over the last week. And I don't know if that's, the sort of like delayed effects of a pretty heavy like summer festival season and spending a lot of time, traveling, going to concerts, all of that kind of stuff. And once that kind of falls away and I'm back here home and not doing anything beyond, trying to get my life together, my shit together, which I'm really good at failing at. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's something else. But like the last couple of weeks, I felt like a bit of a loss of like direction in some ways, and I think like last week was sort of like the point where that really struck home in a lot of for all kinds of reasons, and that's sort of like where I'm. Sort of like what I'm wrestling with at the moment. One of those things was, for example, like last week, Professor Dave Explains made a video of like, will AI destroy us all? And I watched that video and I was not very happy with it. I was pretty disappointed with it, in fact. I made a comment to that end and got insulted by Professor Dave, who does have like an almost 4 million subscriber channel, and felt it necessary to call me a sock puppet, a sock account of Sam Altman, and told me to go fuck myself, which made me very angry. And then I did, in fact, record a video trying to explain why that was bullshit, because there's a lot of things, but sock account of Sam Altman certainly is not what I would consider myself to be in any meaningful way, because I'm certainly very critical of artificial intelligence. And so that was certainly something, and I did record that video, and then I thought like I should probably have made my stances clearer and re-record that video, because at the end of the day, if you sort of like engage with something this big, with someone this well versed as a communicator, as a YouTuber, this larger channel and so forth, you better get your shit right, because otherwise it's gonna, stuff's gonna get very ugly very soon. Because even just like mentioning that channel, not even tagging it, like just mentioning the channel in, say, like a video description or title, will sort of like make it, make some people watch that are not my usual viewers around here. And yes, of course, that's engagement, and isn't that like what we all want? And that will give us like good numbers and so forth. But it comes with like a lot of cost, because it's somewhat outside my wheelhouse, I guess. Well, I mean, not really, but like. At the end of the day, most people here are watching me because I talk about books. And yes, of course, when I talk about artificial intelligence, it's still in a lot of ways based on books, because that's where I get my information from in a lot of ways. And so forth. But it does kind of move beyond that. But I thought there is something important to be communicated there about both like how we talk about artificial intelligence, what we need to know about artificial intelligence, that kind of does go outside of the scope of the real AI video that I'm still definitely going to make, I promise. But there is something more to be said about also about communication, and how for all kinds of reasons, aggression and sort of like quick snap reactions and so forth in communication have become like the norm in a lot of like discourse around current topics, whether that's like books and art and so forth, or whether it's, artificial intelligence, technology, politics, philosophy, anything really at this point. And and those two things are connected in some way, and I think that it's worth talking about that. I just want to get it right, and maybe that's also like what I'm struggling with, like actually getting it right in the proper way without, you know, frustrating too many people, or if I'm, you know, willing to frustrate a lot of people, then at least I should do that when I'm, you know, in a mental state where I can basically just deal with whatever will come down afterwards. Like if that leads to like a lot of people watching a video for the first time, one of my videos, and possibly being unhappy with what I'm saying, then that can certainly, you know, lead to comments and reactions and stuff, and sort of like needing to brace myself to not, you know, really suffer from like the impact there, I think is partly of what I was like trying to figure out over the last week. And well, I mean, re-recording that video certainly wasn't something I was capable of on like Thursday and Friday in particular, when I was basically, you know, hanging out with friends, listening to punk rock and day drinking, not to put too fine a point on it. So I did not re-record it then. Maybe I'll re-record it. One of the things that I kind of realized is that a lot of this boils down to the idea of like superintelligence in general, and maybe it is actually worthwhile to just make a video just looking at that fucking book by Nick fucking Bostrom and actually taking it apart and explaining why the book is bad. But then again, that's also, you know, going down some, you know, that's a hefty project, because he does throw a lot of shit at the wall, and you need to debunk or at least explain why the things that he's talking about are stupid. And I don't know if I have the capacity for that, while I'm also trying to work about, you know, on that larger AI video, which also will include talking about superintelligence and Nick Bostrom, because like in the long list of people that need to, you know, that would be on that list of people I would visit if I had a functioning time machine. Nick Bostrom has ended up on that list, and I might just, you know, take away a computer and typewriter from him so he could, you know, never write that book, and that would probably make the world a better place today. So yeah, I'm just wrestling with those kind of thoughts, and I feel a lot of that has sort of like led to me being somewhat lost mentally at the moment, and yeah, I don't know what to do about that. Hopefully energy and so forth will come back. Maybe I'll read a book and I'll be all fired up and eager to go out and, you know, make stupid videos and do good things. That would be, you know, really good, I think. But for now, I'm just in this weird place where I don't necessarily know what to do next. And the problem with that is, of course, that whenever I say something like that, right, and go like, I'm a bit lost, and some people who are already sort of like unhappy with the directions this channel has taken over the last, I don't know, years or whatever, will go like, well, you need to go back to the old days when everything was good. You were just talking about the Malazan Book of the Fall. And it's like, yeah, I'll do that once, you know, No Life Forsaken comes out, for sure, because I'm still interested in that. But, you know, so talking about the fact that I feel somewhat lost inevitably leads to people, some of you, giving me advice that I will probably have to ignore, because I can't change who I am and what I'm interested in and what I'm trying to do here just because someone else is unhappy. And feeling lost and insecure is just part of like who I am in general. So this will not, you know, this won't change by going and focusing just on, I don't know, Malazan Book of the Fallen content. That will not change that. So I don't know what to do about that in general. I don't know. It's all very frustrating. I hope things will get better in the next couple of days, because yeah, what else am I supposed to do, right? So yeah, I don't know. Sorry for this being a bit more of a rambly and sort of like downer kind of navel-gazing. I hope things will get better relatively soon. If you know, once again, if you have like ideas of like what I should read, let me know down below in the comments. I'm always happy about that. Like if you have like ideas for like videos, you can always tell me that as well, and then I'll probably not do them. But we'll see what happens, right? And I don't know. I hope you had like fun last week and you did like read good books and did cool things and so forth. And hope you continue to do that now that we are in fucking September. I can't believe it. And obviously, you know, next week hopefully Golgotha by Lavi Tidar will be available in audio, so I'll have like something that I'm really looking forward to. And there's a biography of the really good playwright from the 16th century. That being, of course, Christopher Marlowe, coming out next week as well. And I'm going to read that because I'm interested in it. Really cool character. You should know more about Christopher Marlowe if you have the chance. So hopefully, like, next week will be just like cool because cool books are coming out. Who knows? As I said, I hope you had fun. Thanks for hanging out on the live stream. Thanks for watching videos and all of that. I do very much appreciate it. Do the YouTube things. I don't know, like, subscribe, comment, do all of those things. Join the Patreon or the channel if you feel like it. No pressures there. Let me know what you're up to in the comments. And yeah, most importantly, be good people. And I'll see you very soon. And until then, thanks and, well, cheers.